Word on the street is there's a big disagreement between Bob Iger and Kevin Feige. That's the CEO of Disney versus the head honcho of the MCU. And what might it be over? Well, the X-Men, and whether or not they and their social causes should be X'd in favor of a blockbuster for wide audience reception. Today, we'll tell you who might win and why it might cost them more than a few millions in the bank. Hello, folks. Welcome back. It is a pleasure, as always, to have you join with us. Sharing our time with you is the greatest honor we could have. As we get ready to dive in, consider clicking the like button, and we'll tell you what the future of the MCU might be. It has far-reaching cultural implications that you might not consider otherwise. Let's dive in, click the like button, and here we go. Marvin Montanaro at thatparkplace.com, the website that if you're not yet bookmarked, well, you should be. Feige and Iger reportedly clash over X-Men movie direction. Disney scrambles for a blockbuster while Feige wants more social commentary. I told you it was going to be a big show. I told you. New rumors suggest a behind-the-scenes battle is brewing over Marvel's long-awaited X-Men reboot, with Kevin Feige and Bob Iger reportedly at odds over the tone and focus of the upcoming film. According to insiders cited by X-user Main Middleman and reported by Cosmic Book News, the creative clash may determine whether Marvel's mutants return as ideological avatars or as crowd-pleasing box office titans. Here's what Main Middleman has to say. Feige wanted a more grounded X-Men story with a plot that really focused on social issues and disagreements about what it means to be a mutant. He wanted a powerful, dramatic movie that really showed what the X-Men were all about, with the Brotherhood of Mutants as the bad guys. But that's not what Iger and Disney want. Aware of the poor performance of more restrained films, especially the disappointing box office results of Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts recently, the script has been requested to focus on an even greater event film to get a wider audience attention. At the center of the Feige-Iger X-Men debate is the vision for what this new era of mutants should represent. Feige, who has overseen the Marvel Cinematic Universe since its inception, allegedly pushed for a grounded, socially charged story, but that is not what Iger wants. Iger wants to go big and get away from the social issues. That's what we're hearing from these sources. Panel, it's time to hand it to you. What do you want out of an X-Men story, and do you buy into this idea that Kevin Feige and Bob Iger do not see eye to eye?
You know, what's fascinating is that Kevin Feige obviously went to Bob Iger in order to usurp Ike Perlmutter and get him out of the chain of command there, so that Feige could do what he wanted, because Ike Perlmutter was not woke enough, for lack of a better term, and that way Iger was the one who wanted to take credit for, like, Black Panther, for instance, you know, the most mediocre Ryan Coogler film second most mediocre Ryan Coogler film that has ever existed. I think that this is Feige's chickens coming home to roost. Now that Iger needs these films to succeed, he knows that trying to turn X-Men into, instead of a civil rights piece, which is, it actually overlays pretty well on the X-Men story. I know it wasn't originally supposed to be, you know, like Professor X was Martin Luther King, and that Magneto is supposed to be like Malcolm X. You can overlay that on top of it, of course. If they try to do the update of that and make it into a rainbow rights thing, then they're going to alienate most of the audience. That was already one of the most off-putting aspects of the Bryan Singer ones, which, you know, the more you learn about Bryan Singer, the less palatable what he tries to put out is here. So I think trying to turn the X-Men into a very specific social issues thing is going to be a horrible idea. And trying to play it like, say, classic science fiction, like Star Trek, where it could be about social rights, that's where you want to go with this. And I don't think Feige is capable of guiding it in that direction.
Well, I'll tell you this, and let's see what the panel thinks about it. You know, repeatedly, and we're going to have confirmation of this later, full-blown total confirmation. Repeatedly, we're reporting now that Bob Iger is trying to get this company back out of politics. And some people don't understand that. They think that Bob Iger was a true believer in the political movement that he was attempting. And to that I say, no. Iger is all about his legacy and he's all about his money. And so getting this company back to the middle serves his purpose at this moment in time. But the problem for Iger is that it appears he is struggling to get the rest of his company to go along with that because he hired in a bunch of crazy activists. And Kevin Feige, I'm not sure what his total political views are, but Kevin Feige, if we've learned anything over the past phase 4, 5, and 6 now, he wants to stick with social issues. He's not satisfied with being in charge of Marvel. He wants to be in charge of your values, and he wants those superheroes to push that. So, guys, what do you think about it? Do you think, who wins in this, I guess?
Go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think Iger ultimately wins this battle, because, or at least he should, because he's CEO of the Walt Disney Company. You would think that he'd be in charge of the final say when it came to anything that Marvel does, and that's the thing. These films are so expensive; they really have to appeal to the masses. They're 4-quadrant films, or at least they receive 4-quadrant budgets, so they have to be consistent with that philosophy. That you can't have the films that are, I don't know, like A24 style productions with these kinds of massive budgets attached to that. And especially when you look at the larger world, the larger scope, and the larger audience that really has to buy into this, the flywheel has to be able to function, right? You have to be, you want a bunch of people to go out there, not just to see the movie, but also take part in the consumer products, ride the attractions at the theme parks, and so forth. And this is really, I think, the bigger issue here. I'm going to bring it up. John Lasseter, incorporating him into the company back in 2006, 2007, when they actually bought Pixar, was very consistent with, I think, Iger's overall philosophy of having tentpoles that really reach the masses. And John Lasseter, I think, was a real. He was a champion of that, but also a gatekeeper of anybody else who wanted to do something else. Now that John Lasseter's long been removed, that has given rise to a bunch of activists within the company who want to tell their story and their truths. And unfortunately, that just hasn't been a winning recipe for Marvel. Go ahead, Kevin.
So Iger, again, we talked about it a couple days ago here. Iger's struggling because in his effort to prepare himself for bigger things, he corrupted and ultimately changed the entire culture of the Disney company. And it doesn't matter what your strategies are. It doesn't matter what your plans are. Strategy always crumbles to culture. You can't make substantive change without changing the culture, and that is really hard to do without making some really difficult and frankly embarrassing decisions. Kevin Feige is living proof of this. This man has failed at every turn since he lost Whedon, the Russos, and Favreau. They don't carry the award for him, so he can't take credit for everything they put in place before he got there. His vision is folly. His plan for the X-Men, and again, I say it, he not only did he throw Victoria Alonso under the bus, and he had to take a couple trips to get her there, he backed it up and then did it again to pull all the blame off of him. But anybody who was paying attention understands that she was his handpicked successor and was just kind of following the boss's orders and driving his vision. He's wanted this since the moment he had the ability to have input. He wanted to off the main 3 Avengers unceremoniously so the girls could shine. Meanwhile,
Kevin, are we talking about Marvel or Star Wars? I can't see the difference anymore. Keep going.
I would say at least Kathleen Kennedy's open and honest about what she wants to do. Kevin Feige's been a little bit of a snake about it. Meanwhile, the X-Men proper and Marvel proper used to be over $1 million, so over 1 million copies a month sold. They were the thing that made sure that Marvel stayed in existence. They were cultural icons. And as they got away and decided to kind of do this weird deep dive into identity politics, the appeal to the book started to crumble to the point that now you have seminal writers like Chris Claremont saying, when you take the X-Men and you make it all about identity politics, you can't tell proper stories. That's not what this team was intended for. This was highbrow sci-fi. And Yes, I know people love to wax philosophic about Xavier being King and Magneto being Malcolm X, but that was accidental. Magneto, when he first came, was just a violent supremacist. That was his whole. That was it. He had no real backstory until Claremont decided we need to do something a little more interesting with this character. We need to try to explain why he may have such harsh views. And so, you know what? And it was a brilliant decision. Let's take this character and have him be so damaged because he's a Holocaust survivor. So that, and now you have this survivor, essentially, ironically pursuing the views of the people who damaged him, and it turned Magneto into probably one of Marvel's greatest villains. When you sit down and you go to do these movies, the age of the superhero movie is over. Right now, we're just watching the death rattle. However, you have a few properties that can probably just exist in the space like they did before. We know one of them is going to be Batman. If they can get Superman right, one will be Superman. The other one's going to be Spider-Man, and the other one's going to be the X-Men. If they blow it with the X-Men, it's over for Marvel. You might as well just pack it up, wait 20 years, and try to start the experiment all over again. And right now, we're not off to a good start. The casting rumors, the rumor that they're going to be called the mutants, like, it just stinks of Kevin Feige's slavish desire to make sure the message is delivered at all costs.
I think you're exactly right. Culture. What I don't think that Iger and Kevin, not you, Apollo, Feige. I don't think that Iger and Feige, I don't think that they disagree politically. I don't think they disagree culturally. I don't think they disagree socially. I think that Iger, though, looks at the market and says, I don't think the market is going to consume what we're producing right now. And Feige, I think his ego won't let him let go of what he's attempted the last three phases, because if he lets it go, he's tacitly giving credit to the guys who helped him fashion the first three phases, i.e. Perlmutter, etc.
Yeah, I think the absence of Perlmutter has been, the biggest notable here. In fact, Kevin and I have talked about it in previous content we put together, and I'll just say, Perlmutter is sorely missed. He had an understanding of the market and how these characters were normally received, and could certainly deliver upon what he thought would be acceptable, because he's been doing it forever. His guidance of Marvel is what led it back from the edge of tragedy. Had he not acquired the rights and then in turn delivered them to Disney, I don't think we would have had the massive MCU that it became in three phases. And my argument is this: they had already lost direction the minute that Kevin started to assert control. When you look at the end of phase 3 leading into Endgame, you've already started to see the decline in the introduction of identitarian female-centered politics into everything that they produced. You're again doing something we've talked about here on this channel and on many of our channels, turned a boys brand into a girls brand, just like with Star Wars. And that comes with a lot of cultural shifts that none of the audience is going to accept, even if you stretch it over time. And as you get more and more obvious about what your efforts are, you alienate more and more of the audience. This next film screams the recentering of females over males, and taking this family entity and turning it into something else. And that's been the problem with Disney, turning the IPs they acquired for purpose and trying to turn them into something else, creating, fewer and fewer fans. They have actually admitted quite recently that they have created the anti-fam films. So now, with things like Thunderbolts, Captain or fake Captain America or Captain Anti-America, more likely, you've created a whole resistance of people that will never go see another Marvel movie. That's the wrong direction, and I think you guys have stated it correctly. Marvel Marvel, Star Wars, many of these other boy brands need to go back to being boy brands. And the only person that seems to recognize that, his folly is, not working is Iger. I think Feige is.
Does that look like, by the way, that picture right there that Cosmic Marvel is using? They're saying they've got the reboot film, the production title, which won't be the real title. There's no way. But does that look like a boys brand?
Not anymore.
The art
Not
style
anymore.
there in that picture, does that look boy brand to you?
No. The art style is certainly very feminine. The color palette's very feminine. The features of the males are very feminine, and the female features are masculine. As you look at something like that, and you look at the number of female characters on there as opposed to male, this is Marvel's problem, and it's been a problem since the allowed for the feminization of the comics. The massive shift culturally that you guys have been talking about has been not just occurring in Marvel and Star Wars and Disney, but pretty much the entire entertainment enterprise, done in a willful way to try to drive these types of messages, these neo-Marxist messages into everything that we see. I for one am so turned off that the only reason I go see any of these projects anymore is to review them and talk about them with you guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't be seeing Star Wars. I wouldn't borrow people's Disney Plus. I wouldn't be borrowing any of the other services I may borrow from family members, because none of this intrigues me, and I'm a lifelong fan of Star Wars, and
right.
I have no interest in Star Wars, Marvel, anything
look how
else.
fast it's changed culture.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2019, we're talking about 6 years ago, all of us here on this panel were very excited for Marvel content. It was unimaginable that they would manage to wipe this out in such a short amount of time, except that they chose to go with the Star Wars route. And now, talking about borrowing, they need to borrow about $5, because they can't find anybody to come see their movies, and they're a little low on cash. The piggy bank looking shorter, squattier, and not quite as robust as it once was. Helping Hollywood produce a product that you want to consume, that's what we do each and every day, folks. And this time, it's time to, well, say goodbye. We know, but don't cry. No, for we will have more videos on the way. We love to bring those videos and that information. And by the way, if you'd like even more, consider going to the Patreon page. It's www.patreon.com/WDW Pro. It's where we put out stuff exclusively there that we simply can't put out in other places for whatever reason, be it because it's too spicy or because, well, perhaps we're working to corroborate it. But you can find out things early and first over there. Folks, we surely have had a great time spending time with you. Consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell. And drop a comment right on down below. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Hey, Floral, guess what?
You put a fork in Pro's microwave again.
No, that was yesterday.
I don't know that what.
Oh, I've decided to give up on torturing Jonas.
What? Why? In the same way the cat sleeps like 20 hours a day, that was like your purpose.
I know, but I've decided there's bigger fish to fry.
Okay.
Like Lorne. I mean, think about it. Everybody loves him. He's a fan favorite, and frankly, he has almost no weaknesses I can find. Except that he's really smart.
So, you want to annoy the one panelist without a single flaw, because he's smart.
Yeah, like that winged statue at that fancy Paris museum thingy. I want to break the one thing that everyone loves most.
So, kind of like the opposite of Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, exactly. And I get to see her all the time at family reunions anyway.
You get to see Rachel Zegler?
Yeah. She's a total troll. Lives under a bridge, harasses billy goats, the whole 9 yards.
It all makes sense now.
Speaking of which, maybe she'll get me... I'm gonna call her on my... I'm gonna call her and see if she'll be in the next Indiana Jones. She should be the next Indiana Jones. That'll totally destroy Lord. He loves Indiana Jones.
Oh, that's cruel.
Hey, Rach. I've got a cool idea for you that involves a whip and snakes.
I love that description. It's perfect.
I know, right? Weird, as we always say.